afternoon, fellow peers and Professor Kirkhan. Nothing to do with my speech. That was actually named after someone named Richard, so.
All right.
This is awesome. Anyways, so I'm a first year, so I'm going to assume I'm probably one of the youngest people. I'm 18. Is everybody here at least 18 years of age? Raise your hand. Older than 18. All right, cool. So I'm probably one of the last years or generations, I guess, of kids who grew up really, I mean, I didn't have a cell phone until like freshman year of high school. I didn't really know what the internet was. As a kid, I would play outside for once. I really feel like after, 96, probably like in the 2000s at least, kids really grow up with their entire world pretty much centered around the internet and specifically social media. And so I think that this is a really big issue. So my proposition today is that minors' use of social media negatively affects their overall health and well-being. So I'm going to make 3 points today to support this fact. The first point is going to include basically social media incurs cyberbullying, which negatively affects their well-being. My second point I'm going to make today is that minors' use of social media results in a lack of physical activity and exercise. And the third point I'm going to make today is that minors' use of social media results in a loss of social skills and communication. So for my first point, no one's going to argue that cyberbullying is good in any way, but I think people don't understand how many minors are actually affected by cyberbullying. So according to the cyberbullying statistics by the iSafe Foundation, over half of teens and adolescents are affected in some way by cyberbullying, either being the victims or starting the cyberbullying. So this really shows that, it's not just a select group of kids that are affected by this, it's a lot of them. And cyberbullying is only in existence really because of use of social media such as Facebook, texting, stuff like that. Also, it can happen at any place or any time because of the nature of social media. It's really hard to disconnect yourself from that world completely. In traditional bullying, you could kind of separate yourself from the said bully, but with cyberbullying, you really can't get away from it, and that also really negatively affects their overall health because they really can't shield themselves from it. Also, according to studies done by the Center for Health Equity, minors who have been victims of cyberbullying are more likely to consider suicide and have lower self-esteem, so that directly affects their overall health and well-being. For my second point, which deals with physical activity and exercise, according to Dr. Rick Nart of the he's an associate professor at the Rocky Mountain University of Health Professionals Doctorate Program, minors' use of social media sites averages at least 1 hour per day. So that's time that's being taken away from things such as, exercise and, going outside and playing or joining a sports team. And actually, Dr. Rick Nart also states that social media users are less likely to join a sports team, which is a huge outlet for things like physical activity. For my third point, regarding their social media use incurring a loss of social skills and communication skills, Melissa Ortega, a child psychologist at the New York Child's Mind Institute, states that minors have a harder time coming up with small talk with strangers or even people who they actually know, simply because they just don't practice those skills. Most of their communication with their peers and friends occurs, over text messaging or direct messaging on Facebook, things like that. She also can't even imagine a child doing any kind of successful interview at this point, simply because they just don't practice face-to-face communication nearly as much as kids, kind of our age used to back, when we were younger. So my 3 points that I've made today is that child's use of social media results in cyberbullying, which negatively affects their overall health and well-being. It results in a loss of physical activity and exercise, and it also results in a loss of communication skills and social skills. So that all leads to the fact that their use of social media results in a lack, or it negatively affects their overall health and well-being. Thank you for listening.
All right, Rickelle, you have a very clear statement of the proposition, an excellent preview of what the supporting structure is. At the end of the speech, you did a nice job reminding us of those points and what the point was that you were trying to make at the end of the speech. So organizationally, everything is pretty solid. Reasonable explanations on the individual points as well. I do think your proof is a little bit thin on each of those points. The cyberbullying issue is the one that you have the most amount of data on. You've got some indications about how frequently it occurs, how many kids are exposed to it. There's a little bit of risk because of the data that talks about considering suicide and those sorts of things and pressures. I still am a little uncertain because you say, you can't get away from it. You maybe can avoid a bully in real life, but not a cyberbully, and I'm trying to wonder why that is true. If I don't have a Facebook page, if I don't go on social media, how is it that I'm going to be forced to confront the bullying that goes on there? I think you need to have a little bit more explanation here, in part because it's not just the kid who's subjected to this, but other people that may know the individual who are exposed to information. Maybe the harms occur as a result of that. The second point seemed to be a little bit rushed, and although you had some data on how much time is spent on social media, that's about the only proof you had on that point, and I think that there needs to be a lot more development here to show that there's a consequence. On the third point, I think you explained the concept well. You've got a piece of testimony here from an expert that seems thoughtful and understandable, but I'm not sure that it's particularly convincing. I'm not sure it would be sufficient for us to consider that this is in fact a long-term problem. It's kind of speculative at this point, and any other data that you had about how kids have lost communication skills as a consequence of depending on social media, I think would really help and enhance that. The delivery is solid. You do a good job speaking to us, and you project pretty effectively. Thank you.